All of you very good morning students. Respiratory system. I discussed the respiratory system. The previous classes respiratory tract lungs. I discussed the previous classes. Today class the exchange of gases. Exchange of the gases. Exchange of the gases means respiration, intake of the air and exhalation of the air. So the exchange of the gases. So exchange of the gases, our body in the two places. Exchange of the gases, our body in the two places. One place in the alveoli, in the lungs. One exchange of the gases in the alveoli of the lungs. So the alveoli of the lung. So they are the one lung alveoli. So the alveoli to blood vessels. So they are the one area of the gases exchange. Next one, another area of the gases exchange in the tissues, blood to tissues. A gases exchange our body in the two areas. One is the alveoli of the lungs, alveoli of the lungs to blood, alveoli of the lungs to blood. The atmospheric air coming to the lungs, that lungs presenting on the alveoli, that alveoli to that gases diffusion into the blood capillaries. So they are the one area of the gases exchange. So another area of the gases exchange, so they are the tissue levels. The blood is transport to the tissues. The gases blood circulatory system transport to the tissues, in the lungs to heart to tissues. In the tissues they are the gases exchange of blood to tissues. So they are the gases exchange. Next one, majorly the gases exchange depend on the pressure, the partial pressure. They are presenting on the pressure. So high concentration to low concentration. The gases is transport to the high concentration to low concentration, high pressure to low pressure. So they are the simple diffusion process. They are exchange of the gases is the simple diffusion process. Diffusion process means they transfer to the high level to low level, high concentration to low concentration, high pressure to low pressure. So they are the exchange of the gases. Our body exchange of the gases in the two areas. One is the lungs of the alveoli to blood. Another one is the blood to tissues. Blood to tissues. They are majorly depending on the partial pressure of the gases. Partial pressure of the gases. Next one, majorly exchange of the gases depending on the some factors. Depending on the some factors like partial pressure. First one, partial pressure. The diffusion of the gases majorly partial pressure. So the pressure is high pressure to low pressure. The gases are the diffusion. Next one, solubility of the gases. Solubility of the gases. So they are the gases solubility levels. So the some of the solubility levels. Next one, thickness of the respiratory membranes. Thickness of the respiratory membranes. Thickness of the respiratory membrane means, so they are the alveoli membrane and these are the blood vessel membrane. So these membranes are the based on the thickness. So over thickness, the small amount of the gases are the diffusion. So they are these membranes are the thin. Membranes are the thin. So the gases are the more amount of the gases is the absorption or diffusion. So the thickness of the membranes. The membranes are the thickness. So very thin membranes, the easily gases are the transported, diffusion. Next one, surface area. Surface area. So surface area, large surface area. For example, these are the large surface area. They are the one are the surface area. So the surface area is the large, the more gases are the exchange. The surface area is short, the small amount of the gases are the exchange. So depend on the surface area. Surface area is the larger, so the more gases are the diffusion, the transport. Next one, the gas, the surface area is the less, the small amount of the gases are the diffusion. Next one, distance of diffusion. Distance of the diffusion. So the distance of the diffusion, the distance is the short distance, and so easily diffusion of the gases. The distance is very large, so the gases are the small amount of the gases are the diffusion. So they are the depends on the gases exchange. First one, partial pressure. First one, the partial pressure. Second one, solubility of the gases. Solubility of the gases. Third one, thickness of the respiratory membrane. Thickness of the respiratory membrane. Fourth one, surface area. Fourth one, surface area. Fifth one, distance of diffusion. Fifth one, distance of the diffusion. For example, in the atmospheric air, the O2 percentage is the 19.6 percentage. The O2 percentage in the atmosphere 19.6 percentage. 19.6 percentage in the atmospheric air. The exhaled air means release of our body to outside the real gases. That gases, the O2 percentage is the 15.7 percentage. 15.7 percentage. Inhaled air, the O2 percentage is the 19.62 percentage. The exhaled air, the percentage is the 15.7 percentage. Approximately 4 percentage of oxygen entering into the blood. 4 percentage of the oxygen entering into the blood. Next one, the atmospheric air, the CO2 percentage 0.03 percentage. 0.03 percentage. So exhaled air, the percentage is the 4 percentage. Exhaled air is the 4 percentage. Approximately 3.057 percentage of 0.57 percentage of CO2 is releasing from the our body to outside. The inhaled air carbon dioxide percentage 0.03 percentage or 0.04 percentage. 0.04 percentage. Only 0.04 percentage. The exhaled air releasing to the outside of the air, the percentage is the 4 percentage, approximately 4 percentage. So the 3.57 percentage of the CO2 release of the our body. So they are the exchange of the gases. Next one. So the alveoli. So these are the alveoli, one of the alveoli. So the lungs presenting on the alveoli, approximately 300 millions of the alveoli in the lungs. So they are the one alveoli. So the alveoli presenting on the squamous epithelium membrane. So they are the squamous epithelium membrane. So they are presenting on the air. So they are the air. The air is diffused into the blood vessels. Oxygenated blood vessels, the diffusion into the alveoli to blood vessels. Next one, carbon dioxide. The CO2 is going to the blood vessel to alveolar cavity. So they are the partial pressures. Partial pressure. Next one, we see the diagram, the transport of the gases and the diffusion process. First one, the air, taken up the air from the nasal chamber to nasal tract to nasal chamber, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles to finally reach into the alveoli of the lungs. So they are the one alveoli of the lung. So in the alveoli, partial pressure of O2 is 104 mmHg. So the partial pressure of O2 is 104 mmHg. In this alveoli, partial pressure of CO2 is 40 mmHg. Only oxygen pressure 104 mmHg. The carbon dioxide pressure 40 mmHg. So oxygen is the high pressure, CO2 is the low pressure. So this area, oxygen is diffusion into the alveoli to blood. So diffusion majorly pressure, the pressure high pressure to low pressure. In this CO2 pressure is only 40 mmHg. O2 pressure is 104 mmHg. So the O2 pressure is high. So in this area, O2 is diffused into the alveoli to blood vessel. Next one, these are the oxygenated blood. These oxygenated blood going to the heart transport to the body parts. In the tissues, the pressure of O2 is 95 mmHg. In the blood, oxygenated blood, the pressure of O2 is 95 mmHg. In the tissues, pressure of CO2 40 mmHg. So these gases is transported from the blood to tissues. Next one, in the tissues, pressure of CO2 is 45 mmHg. In the tissues, pressure of CO2 is 45 mmHg and pressure of O2 is 40 mmHg. So the CO2 is going from the tissue to blood vessels. So these deoxygenated blood going from the heart. So the heart to lungs. In the deoxygenated blood, the pressure CO2 pressure is the high, O2 pressure is the low. So they are the diffusion to the outside. So they are the gases, the diffusion in the process. The oxygenated blood transfer to the pulmonary vein. Next one, systemic artery. So they are the pulmonary artery and systemic vein. So they are the transport of the gases from the vessels. Next one, they discuss the different areas of the pressure of respiratory gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide. Oxygen and carbon dioxide. Oxygen in the atmospheric air, the pressure is the 159 mmHg. 159 mmHg. The O2 pressure in the atmospheric air 159 mmHg. The CO2 pressure is the 0.3 mmHg. O2 159 mmHg. CO2 0.3 mmHg. Next one, alveoli. In the alveoli. So in alveoli, the O2 pressure is the 104 mmHg. And the O2 pressure in alveoli 104 mmHg. So the CO2 pressure is the 40 mmHg. CO2 pressure 40 mmHg. So they are the high concentration, they are the low concentration. So the air is moving from the alveoli to blood vessels. Next one, deoxygenated blood. In the deoxygenated blood, O2 pressure is the 40 mmHg. Deoxygenated blood, O2 pressure is the 40 mmHg. The CO2 pressure is the 45 mmHg. So they are there in the deoxygenated blood, the CO2 pressure is high. Next one, oxygenated blood. In the oxygenated blood, the O2 pressure is 95 mmHg. O2 pressure 95 mmHg. The CO2 pressure is the 40 mmHg. The CO2 pressure is 40 mmHg. Next one, in the tissues. In the tissues, the O2 pressure is the 40 mmHg. CO2 pressure is the 45 mmHg. Next one, inside the cell. Inside the cell, the O2 pressure is 20 mmHg. O2 pressure 20 mmHg. CO2 pressure is the 50 mmHg. So there are the different areas, the pressure of the gases. Next one, the gases exchange in the two types. One is the pulmonary gases exchange. One is the pulmonary gases exchange. Pulmonary gases exchange. Second one is the systemic gases exchange. Systemic gases exchange. Pulmonary gases exchange and systemic gases exchange. The pulmonary gases exchange. First one, the pulmonary gases exchange. The pulmonary gases exchange means in the alveoli, the oxygen in the alveoli presenting and the oxygen, that oxygen alveoli to blood vessels. Alveoli to blood vessels. These are going from the heart. Next one, the CO2 going from the blood vessel to outside. So they are the pulmonary gases exchange. The oxygenated, the oxygen coming from the alveoli to blood. Alveoli to blood. Next one, CO2 going from the deoxygenated blood to alveoli. So they are the pulmonary gases exchange. The oxygen alveoli to pulmonary vein, coming from the alveoli to pulmonary vein. Next one, the CO2 the pulmonary artery to alveoli. So these are the pulmonary gases exchange. Next one, systemic gases exchange. Next one, systemic gases exchange. The systemic gases exchange means the oxygenated blood, the oxygenated blood from the systemic artery to, they are sending from the tissues. The O2 going from the systemic artery to tissues. The oxygen going from the systemic artery to tissues. Next one, the opposite direction. The CO2 from the tissues to systemic vein. Tissues to systemic vein, they transport to the CO2. So they are called the systemic gases exchange. Pulmonary gases exchange and systemic gases exchange. Pulmonary gases exchange means the gases, oxygen transport from the alveoli to blood. The CO2 transport to blood to alveoli. So they are the pulmonary gases exchange. Next one, systemic gases exchange. Systemic gases exchange means these are the oxygen entering from the blood to tissues. Oxygen transport from the blood to tissues. The opposite, the CO2 transport to the tissues to blood. So they are called the systemic gases exchange. Pulmonary gases exchange and systemic gases exchange. Pulmonary means O2 coming from the alveoli to blood, CO2 blood to alveoli. So they are the pulmonary gas exchange. Systemic gas exchange means the O2 transport from the blood to tissues. Next one, the CO2 transport to the tissues to blood. So they are the systemic gases exchange. So these are the systemic gases exchange. They are the pulmonary gases exchange. So these are the heart. So they are the heart. First one, alveoli to oxygenate from the blood. Blood coming from the right, left atria to left ventricle to different types of the body parts. Different types of the body parts. So they are the different types of the body parts. Next one, they are the O2 taken from the tissues, releasing from the CO2. That CO2 going from the systemic vein, from the right vein, right artery to right vein. So the right vein transport to the lungs. So the alveoli. So they are the gases exchange of the two ways, pulmonary gases exchange and systemic gases exchange. Majorly they are depending on the partial pressure. Gas exchange is majorly depending on the partial pressure through the diffusion process, high concentration to low concentration, the transport of the gases. So they are the gases exchange.